This is about funding and learning how to get that money for the bank instead of going backwards and trying to save your dollars so that you can do all the things you want to do. Just create what you need to create, because I'm an ex-banker. So I understand what the rules are. The banks are there to bring the people in on the commercial side, and the underwriter is there to turn people away. So I was actually the manager of Bank of America Holdings for a couple of years there. And so we used to train banks and virtual banks and what they call borrowing on a forward. So what we're going to do is we're going to teach you Latin and take you out of Aramaic language, because all money is in Latin. So just give it a minute, and then we'll proceed, and I'll paint this puzzle and we can all put it together. I do something that's called a scratch pubco. I may be saying some things that you've never heard before, but that's okay. At the end of this, you can ask me certain questions and I will answer them. We are consultants. We've been around about 22 years. Started out doing was we started taking companies public. So a publicly traded company is about the highest form of any business that you can ever achieve. And they're based on evaluation of private placement memorandums, and everybody around the world can invest in you. So what I want to do is I want to start at the top and then work our way down. I like to look at it from the eagle's point of view, because the eagle has a wide range of everything that he can see. So he can say, I'm going to eat that snake over there, and then when I finish, I can always get to that possum. So he knows, he sees it all. Most people are looking to build a business. They're looking to save their money, take their 401k and get whatever they can get, save it up, and then make that next step up the ladder, up the ladder, up the ladder. That's backwards. So what I want to teach you is maybe there's some things that you know. I can't assume that you know these things, so I'm just going to roll on. And if you know them, please excuse me for just going over things you may know. A lot of things I'm going to tell you about, you're not going to learn on the internet. You're not going to learn them on YouTube. And a lot of people paint a picture for you. They may know credit. They may know corporate credit. They may know trade lines. They may know, seasoned corporations. Very few people are going to teach you or give the information on the total picture in plain language. So I'm going to try to stay away from the language of a high industry, because I'm an economist. So I tend to speak in ranges as though you know certain things, like you already know certain things. So I'm going to try to shy away from that. So again, let's get to the meat of the subject. I'm Derrick Whitehead. I came out of San Diego, worked on the ships for a while, had a top secret security clearance. I was a mechanical engineer, got out of that, got hurt on one of the ships, and I started a restaurant I wanted to do for self. So I started the restaurant, and back about 27 years ago. And when I got hurt, I got a big settlement. When I got that big settlement, I said, well, I'm going to do something with this. So I got to grab the guy out of San Diego who had a famous restaurant, but he lost it because of, infidelity or whatever it's going on. And it was called the Fish Connection. So I opened that restaurant with him. And when I opened that restaurant, I was very proud of the restaurant, so proud until I didn't realize that just having a restaurant was not giving me the money. So I had one of my mentors, his name is John Noble. He owns half of La Jolla, which is a very prosperous area in San Diego. He said, don't fall in love with the business or the car. So, I was looking at opening a car dealership at the same time. So I said, once I understood that, then I knew, do I want to have a business because I love it? Or do I want to have a business so that it can bring me revenue or can bring me wealth? So when I made that decision, my life changed around. So I'm in there. I built one restaurant, and of course I was a shipbuilder, And I went around the world putting in missile installations, and I got on went with Raytheon, and we built something called the Patriot Missile System. We installed that on Command Ship Coronado. After we did that, we did a bunch of other things, the top security clearance things, Code Blue. Got hurt, like I said, opened that restaurant. Once I opened that restaurant, I built another one. And then I built another one. Before you know it, I had a chain of restaurants called Homestyle Fish and Chips, pretty well known in San Diego. Then I did a franchise, and I got into this business thing, and I really enjoyed it. And I was doing well, and I took my family and I moved them out to Temecula and bought a bunch of homes and got into real estate and opened up a real estate company and doing all kind of miraculous things until one day, a friend of mine, his name is Kyle Freeman. He walked in a restaurant and he said, "You're doing pretty well, huh?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "What do you think? Look at the car I'm driving. You know, that Ferrari outside, a Bentley home. Look at all the homes I'm in." I said, "I'm doing pretty good." He said, "Yeah, well, you're doing pretty good, but that's pennies." I said, "Pennies? Oh, really?" I said, "Well, if that's pennies, then show me the money." He said, "I will. Come with me on Monday." It was a Monday or a Tuesday. I can't quite recall what day it was. But I said, "Okay, I'll go with you." Told the manager I'll be out on that day. And I went down to San Diego, this big building. And when I got there, I saw all these Ferraris and Lamborghinis and all these parked outside. I said, "What is this?" He said, "You just wait, walk upstairs." So I walked upstairs. He said, "You're with me, you're my assistant. Just sit at this desk and observe." I said, "Okay." So I sat at the desk and I observed all these guys with these ties on, these $5,000, $10,000 suits, Rolex watches, Cartiers. I said, "What is this?" So the guys were there, just on each separate phone, they were pulling money out of whales, guppies, and institutional funders. A whale is a person that gives you maybe $100,000 to maybe $1 million. A guppy, that's a guppy. A whale is a person that will give you, a guppy is a guy to give you maybe a doctor, will give you $100,000 or $1 million to invest in other people's business, right? And then there was a guppy, a whale will give you between $1 million to 10, 20 million, maybe 50 million. And then there's the institutional funder that you can get $1 billion out of them, such as Sony or Google. They invest in institutions that invest in companies so that they can go public. So once they invest in you and you go public, they take their money out once you go public and everybody comes to the yard. Stock rises up, they take their money out, and now they're gone. They never lose. People lose when they put their money in on the back end when they go public. But when you put your money in the beginning, they never lose. That's called a 144 stock. So I'm sitting there watching these guys on the phone who from these big brokerage homes pulling money out of people, 10 million, 15 million, 20 million. Hey, I got this new company, Mr. Johnson, you got to put 125,000 shares in, I need to, what do you mean you can't put 125? How much money did I make you last year? How much did I make you last year? How much money did I make you 6 months ago? What you mean? You got to ask your wife to put your pants on? You got to ask your wife, click. They said, shh. So then they bring the guy back in. I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson, I didn't mean to insult you, but I'm just trying to get you money. When get you on this company? It's the hottest thing going. I was astounded that these guys were pulling money, $10, $20 million, $50 million out of people in a half an hour. And that was called a boiler room. Now, some of the people may have seen that movie, The Boiler Room. If you haven't, it's a good movie to watch, because we don't just want to go in and get that 100,000. We don't want to go in and get that pennies. That's what you call seed capital. We're going to talk about that too, but we want to go in and reach the top. If you're ambitious, the world is your oyster. There's no such thing as money. Money is only gold and silver, right? This is fiat money, right? So if we want to go in and become a publicly traded company, have your own sign going across the board, we'll do something that's called a private placement memorandum, and a Lehman's agreement. Again, you're not going to have any of this stuff taught to you on the internet because this is Latin and all money is in Latin, right? So that's why they have on the dollar bill what they say, e pluribus unum. E pluribus unum simply means out of one comes many in Latin. If you go to the court, which I'm an expert in economics in court, I'll hear a guy say, he says, who's representing you, sir? And the guy says, I'm representing myself. Then the judge says, well, you have a fool for an attorney. And the guy says, why is that? He says, because you should have said, I am here pro per. That's Latin. We speak Latin here and you're not going to do well. So you should hire an attorney or a lawyer who went to school to learn Latin. So if we're going to go into money, we're going to find out money and go for money, we should understand the rules of money. So number one, money is only gold and silver. What we call money is not real money. It's just your number. It's just your name with numbers behind it. And if you tell them what they want to hear, they will give you the funds, all that you need. It depends on how you present your paperwork. So let's talk about money real quick, real briefly. Money is not based on moral law. You are based on moral law. A person is based on moral law. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your hand on the Bible and say, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not do this. You break the rules, you get a penalty. But money is not based on moral law. Money is based on water law. Okay, so if we're going to go for money, we should understand what we're dealing with. So that's why you have cash flow. That's why you have currency. That's why you have liquidity. That's why you put your money in a bank. A bank is where the water meets the land. That's what they call water law. And there's no law or morality in corporations, corporate funding. It's a wild, wild west. Personal credit is based on the Fair Credit Reporting Act, which has got under the FTC, which is over, Congress is over that, 1968, that put their law in, right? To protect folks like me. But in corporations, there is no, there's no laws involved. It's only UCC laws, right? Or GAAP, General Accountants Acceptance Principles. So there's no morality in an entity, right? So that's why you know, you ever see a pirate, like old Peg Leg? He'll go out and take everything off somebody's ship. He'll take the money, he'll take the bounty, he'll take the booty, he'll take whatever it is, and there's nothing you can do about it on land. And he's drinking and saying yo-ho and a bottle of rum because he said, I did that on the water, and there's no law or morality on the water. So they came up with this thing about 2,000 years doing Rome because they wanted to separate themselves from the people and their morality. The 85% spoke Aramaic, a poor language, and the rich people spoke Latin. And those people couldn't read that spoke Aramaic. They couldn't read. They were farmers, right? They couldn't write. They couldn't read. So, you know, they pretty much did whatever the Latin people told them to do. So the same thing today is a poor language and a rich language. So what I'm trying to teach you today is Latin. Okay. Let's say, for instance, if you, what I like to call it is economic masonry. I'm not here to motivate you. I'm not here. If you need motivation, then there's Tony Robbins. You know, I'm here to show you things about money that can take you to levels that you never would believe you can go to. And there's no difference between you or me or anybody else except the knowledge. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is not power. Because if you got a man sitting on the couch with a PhD, true story, I know one, and he's smoking and he's drinking and he waits for his wife to come home because she makes a lot of money. And she says, honey, did you get a job today? He said, well, not today. Can you hand me a beer? There's no power there. There's knowledge, but there's no power because he's not doing anything. So knowledge is not power. It's the application of knowledge. So if you hear whatever I teach you today or show you, if you learn anything, if you don't apply it, then what good is it? There's no power to it. So let's get back to Latin, because that's what's going to catapult you and make you separate from the other people. So in today's language, what we have is we have 85% of the people here speaking Aramaic, but they speak English. English is a Baltic of Latin. English is a Baltic of Latin. It's a poor language. They call it one of the Romantic languages. But we don't want to be that. We want to speak Latin. So what they did was they separated themselves from the poor in every way. So when you use your social, you're not speaking Latin, you're speaking Aramaic, because the United States of America is only Washington, D.C. Only. It's a corporation out of Delaware. Just look it up. So that corporation and the states are corporations underneath the United States of America. And the cities are corporations under the states, unless they're very rural. And the people are corporations. Just turn over your social and look at your corporate number on the back. Then they put about $25 billion in your name because they own you, because your mother says you are a citizen at birth. So now they own you as a corporation, a Willie or a Susan corporation. So now they can use your money that they put in your account in one of the 12 Federal Reserve banks in the United States. I know because I was in high banking. So all you're doing when you borrow money from the bank is borrowing your own money. All they're doing is doing the paperwork for you and charging you money to do the paperwork. When they borrow the money, then they send it up to the bank on a forward to people like me, and we stamp it and we send it off to the Federal Reserve. And now you're using your own money. So there's a way to get around that, but we're not going to go into that right now. Some people are trying to do sovereignty and private and public, but I advocate, I've been through all that. I've been through the Freemans and all of that. And I can know that hands backwards. But why separate yourself when you can join the crew, speak Latin, and be a part of the good old boys, which is slowly becoming also the good old girls, because they are learning this secret language too now. They are CEOs and they are really booming. So in Latin, if you go in and you understand the money system, there's no problem with getting any amount of money that you want. So I'm going to teach you from top to bottom how to do that. So let's say, for instance, if you go in as a sole proprietorship. A sole proprietorship is not a company. You're only getting a license to do business, but you don't have a company. Your mother never birthed a company. She birthed a person, a sovereign person. But since they own that person, right? Washington, D.C. is a corporation. D.C., that's why they can't vote there. So they own you. So when you walk in and you make $1 million, right? In economics, they're going to take in taxes 37, almost 40%. That means you're going to give right off the top to Uncle Sam, which is not my uncle, $400,000. That's because they own you. So to avoid that, you want protection. That's your corporation. And we're going to get into 3 levels or 4 levels, 5 levels of corporations, right? So first of all, people understand that they should have a corporation so they can avoid those taxes. When you go into a corporation, whatever is left over that you did not put back in the corporation, you bypass capital gains tax. So if you make 10 million, you put 9 million back into the corporation, now you only have to pay tax on $1 million. But then, of course, we go into what we call in high finance, something that's called a Maytag. That's what some people, the Aramaic, called a nonprofit. But in high finance, they call it a Maytag. So if you hear Donald Trump or Oprah saying, I need a Maytag, That's because they can't get rid of the money. They don't know where to put the rest of the money. So they open up, you know what Maytags do? They kind of wash things. So you open up a nonprofit, and then you take that million, donate it to the nonprofit, and you're only responsible for 15% of that money. You get to keep the other 85%. That's why you have Bill Gates Foundation, and nonprofits are for the, I don't want to put anybody down, but it's Aramaic. If you're going to have a nonprofit, you want to have a foundation, because nonprofits are the things that give money to foundations, and they are a bank. They can lend money, and they're non-taxed. That's why they say, well, you know, you watch something on television, this program was sponsored by the Attenberg Foundation, which is a very, very rich foundation. What they're doing is they're a bank. So say, for instance, you have a foundation, you can go in and you can take the money of a foundation, buy an apartment complex. We also teach in real estate and notes. So everything has a note. Your dollar bill is a note. Just look at it. It says Federal Reserve note. A airplane, a jet has a note on it. A house has a note on it. Your television, if you're paying for it, is a note. The credit cards, everything is notes and insured. We'll get into that later. So if you walk in and you say, okay, I have a note, what you can do is leverage that note. So if you buy non-performing notes, the bank has to get rid of them because they're not performing. So that's for a yacht, a plane, whatever you want. You go in, you buy it 3 cents on a dollar, and now you make it performing. If that person pays on time for 3 months, now the bank looks at that as 100%. So that's how you make $1 out of 15 cents. That's how you make $50 out of 15 cents, by purchasing and selling notes. So there's no need to really go in and do all this work. What we're talking about here, I will attempt to teach you, is something in high finance that's called non-performance income. You don't perform, they perform. We've performed enough. So when a guy goes out and a football player runs up and down the football field, he's performing. When a person's singing, they may make $20 million, but they're performing. Somebody is backing them who's not performing. So the businessman understands Latin. They say, you perform. I just have a phone, a computer, and I put the money in. So they took the land, they brought a bunch of people here, and they did not perform. So now the same thing today. Latin speakers do not perform. So borrowing money from the bank is just an excuse to get money. It's just an excuse. So when you walk into, let's say, Starbucks has 1 million DBAs all over the country. Now I was in a private meeting in Texas with Starbucks, with one of the top performers in Starbucks, one of the CEOs. They have many. Starbucks is not the corporation. Starbucks is a DBA, and they have millions of them. So when I went into that meeting, he said, just sit down over here. A lot of my buddies like to invite me to things. So I sat down over there. The guy says, okay, we need $500 million so that we could dig coltan out of Africa. That's like gold. Everybody's digging coltan out of Africa now. It's a second highest conductor to gold. So the Chinese, everybody's over Africa trying to get it. So I said, oh, whoa, that's pretty cool. So he said, just check this out and listen. So the guy passed out flyers, all these envelopes. They opened the envelope. He said, oh, page 1, our goal is to get 500 million so we can use that as a leverage for the bank to leverage that 9 times. Then we'll be able to do a coltan out of Africa. So the one kid says, how are we going to do that? So they says, well, who is this kid? And the other guy says, well, that's such and such's grandson. So they said, oh, okay. So they left him alone. So he said, we're going to do it the way we always do it. So he pulled down this map. He says, as you can see, we have all these dots on the map. So what we're going to do is we're going to put 250 Starbucks around Texas. Here, 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 and here, here. Right? And we're going to go into the bank and we're going to get 250 DBAs, write them up, and we're going to fund each one of them. And so a Starbucks, as you probably realize, has junk furniture, secondhand furniture. They have just a little coffee machine, and they sold some, and most people don't even buy anything. They go in and use their internet to have meetings. So Starbucks doesn't make any money. That's just an excuse. So they say $2 million we're going to say we need for a Starbucks, but it only cost us $200,000 to build a Starbucks. So now the bank funds them because their paperwork is right, 250 of them. Now they walk out of there and they take the $2 million for one and they build it. They come out and visit, do a site visit and say, okay, check, Starbucks is there. And now they have $1.8 million to do whatever the hell they want to do. That's the secret behind Starbucks, behind most of the companies, behind most of your companies. There's just an excuse to get the money to do what you really want to do. So as we know, banks don't lend to real estate. Banks don't lend to risky things such as restaurants. So what do? You walk in, you have the correct SIC code, an SIC code. Some people recognize that. A SIC code is a code that identifies in the bank what you do. So if you're a truck driver, your SIC code is maybe 1456, something like that. That identifies that you're a truck driver. And the NICSC code is another code that identifies the industry you're in. So that industry is going to be transportation. So you don't want to go in with the wrong SIC code because you're going to get denied. I was a banker. So the bank is going to look at your SIC code and your NICS code, and they're going to determine if you fall into the lending category. So most people name themselves, such and such as Restaurant Incorporated. Well, you just kicked yourself out because a company should do two things. It should first, number one, bring in revenue. The second thing that most people don't think about is it should be something that you can sell. So bringing in $1 million is nowhere near a year, is nowhere near what your company is worth. The worth of your company is many times more than what you are bringing in. So most people say, I make $1 million a year. You say, so what's your company worth? Just like Donald Trump is worth, his company is worth 40 billion. So Oprah, 3 billion worth. Like she doesn't have that. She makes a salary, a little salary. If she did, she'd pay a lot of taxes. Like Bezos, $100 billion. He doesn't have $1 billion in his trunk. It won't fit. It's what the company is worth. He has a valuation. So every company should have a valuation. So you have no problem with going to the bank and saying, I speak Latin. Here's my company and give me the money. When will I have this money? We don't walk in guessing. We walk in knowing, right? So this is Latin. That's why a person that has wealth, they never go down. They always make a lateral or an up movement. So the poor get poorer and the rich get richer because they know how to build a corporation and always have access to capital. So we're going to get into the shelf corporations in a minute because I know a lot of people may be familiar with that. But we're going to talk about shelf, seasoned age shelf, unpublished. Some people may have never heard of unpublished, but I'm a banker and I'm going to tell you why you need unpublished. So let's go back to Latin. When you walk into a bank, they're going to say, walk in with red socks, black shoes, blue pants. If you walk in with not red socks, White Sox, you're not getting the money. So we want to make sure that we have the correct SIC code that they lend the money on. Once they give you the money, they don't care what you do with it, as long as you pay the bill on time. And in your personal credit, they will say, if you go over 30%, because they own you, your credit is going to go down. But if you have a corporation and you have high limit credit cards, higher than personal, they're going to, if you're maxed out, as long as you pay that bill, they will give you more credit. Because you need a mannequin, just like you're the mannequin, now you need a mannequin you can control. And you say, just like Washington, D.C., the president bombs a country, and then they say, you did that. He said, I didn't do it. United States of America did it. Well, that's the same mentality that you need to have. So we need to learn how to have these mannequins on call, on the shelf. Whenever we need money, pull one off the shelf, have it ready to go. I can show you probably 30 of them right now that I have. And in the question and answers period, if you want, I can show them to you. Always have a ton of corps that are ready to fund. So you never are without funding. There's no need to have Section 8. There's no need to have government cheese. There's no need for have free health care, because if you can pull a corp off the shelf and go and get yourself $100, $200, $300, $400, $500,000, why can't you just go pay for any of the best health care? Go fund 2 or 3 of them and do whatever you want to do. This is Latin. So I was once, when I do webinars or seminars, like used to do more seminars than webinars, I pick a guy out in the front and I say, sir, what is it that you're trying to do? Real story. He said, well, I want to open up a mobile car wash company. I said, what does it take to do that? I said, because, we own a dealership. By the way, we own Primo and Prime Auto out of San Diego. Prime Auto sells low end. So if you never need a car, get in touch. And Primo Auto sells high end. So we sell Jaguar, Bentley, and BMW and Mercedes. So if you ever need a low end or high end, get in touch with us. Primo Auto. Okay. So now, if you walk in, I say, okay, you walk in, what are you going to need to do that, sir? He says, I need to get I'm saving up for my truck. I'm saving up for my reservoir that's going to hold the water. He says, I'm also saving up for the trailer to pull the reservoir. I'm going to get my licensing. I'm going to get all of this stuff, right? I said, so ma'am, why is he doing all of this? Why are people going out building all of this so that they can get all of this stuff? She said, so he can get money. I said, so sir, why are you doing that? He said exactly what she said, so I can get money. I said, well, sir, why are you doing all of that stuff? Why don't you just walk in the bank and get some money? Just started scratching his head, looking at me like, what are you talking about, Willis? This is the way we do it. I said, well, that's not the way. It's the way the poor Aramaic speakers do it. People build a corporation. They don't save their 401k and save for their truck. They say, I need 100 grand. And they double that and say, if I need 100, I need 200 because I need to service the loan. I need a year put aside for servicing the loan and then do what I need to do. And if after 6 months, I was a banker, after 6 months, and you pay a 6 months on a credit card, they're going to write it off. After 18 months on a loan installment, whatever, they're going to be able to write it off. They call it debt equity at the end of the year. So they're not mad at you, but you can't get any more credit. So you say, well, Willie has bad credit now. And so he says, oh, I'm sorry, Willie Corporation has bad credit. So you walk out with I'm sorry. And then you walk to your car and you open the trunk and you pull out Leroy. Then you walk back in the bank the next day and you say, hey, you know what? Leroy needs some money. And then if Leroy messes up and you did your 6 months, 18 months, then they say, well, okay, guess what? I have Harvey. Harvey needs some money. So you always have access to the corporation. Now people will say, what's the do's and don'ts? What's the bad part about this? There isn't any, because it's totally legal. It's just not widely known. So why would a bank give you this money? Because banks are under a different charter than people are. So if you put $1,000 in your trunk, in your house, you say, I got $1,000 saved. If you put $1,000 in the bank, you say, I got $1,000. But the bank says we have $10,000 because they leverage your money 9 times on their books. So if you put $10,000, if you put $1,000 in the bank, $10,000 for them. If you borrow $1,000, they have $10,000 plus the interest they lent you. So that's why they are very motivated to give you the money. They're not doing you any favors. You're doing them a favor. And on top of that, you're borrowing your own money. So if you want to walk into the bank and you say, listen, they charge you as an individual to store their money in the bank. But if you speak Latin, they pay you for putting your money in a business account. So we'll get into that, the 4 ways that you can always get a hold of money when you have a corporation. So what they do is they say, okay, you speak Aramaic. So as soon as something happens, your credit's bad, you're dead in the water 7 years, bankruptcy 10 years, you're out of it. That's what we want, you out of it. Because if you have a Rolls Royce at the stoplight and everybody else has a Rolls Royce at the stoplight, what makes you different? So I was told by some very, very powerful, smart people in the industry that, Derrick, the game is to be sold and not told. So I said, I understand. All during my rise, during this economic rise, they said the game is to be sold, not told. So what I'm asking you is to not go out and share this information with everybody you run into, trying to make ourselves look big. And the only way that you're supposed to share this info is if you're making money or you've been drinking. And lucky for you guys, have been doing a little drinking today. So when you walk into the bank and you ask them, I want to get 100,000, 200, 300, 400, 500,000, whatever it is, they're going to look at what your corporation is worth, how your corporation is structured, right? So that's what worth means. It means credibility. Okay, so what we want to go into now is the proper structure for the corporation. We told you about, for those that are on, how you can go public, and a small cap in a publicly traded company is considered $25 billion. That's a small cap. So when people can invest in you around the world, how many people on here who may be dealing in this area actually are even thinking about having a publicly traded company going across their own symbol, just like Google, just like all the rest of these Fortune 500 companies? Your symbol's going across. The first thing is in Latin, it's a Latin game. So you never name, if you're going to build a company, you don't name it a regular name, you name it a Latin name, because this is a club. This is economic masonry. And once they understand it, you understand Latin, you roll through easier. So like one of my companies are called Robust. So what that means is that that means Latin for big. So when they see my company pop up, they say, oh, speak Latin. It depends on the amount of money. So if you're going for that $100, $200, $300, $4,000, just don't name it anything specific. If you want to name something specific, name it as your DBA. And you can have 1,000 of those as your excuse to get money. Remember that, right? You name it what you want, so you get the money that you need to do what you want to do. So we get the proper SIC code like IT, they love IT, different things like that. So if you walk in the bank and you have the proper name, you have the proper structure, they're going to give you the money. So let's go into take it one level down, because we can go into at length what they call a Lehman's agreement and taking your company public. But first, we learned this. I told you about my guy, Kyle Freeman. When he walked me into that boiler room, I was astounded how he was pulling all this money. And I thought, now I was small. All the millions I had from my restaurants, my car dealerships, and we have Temecula Gold and Jewelry here in Temecula. We sell diamonds, we sell Cartiers, we sell, so Temecula Gold and Jewelry. We also have 79 acres of movie studios in Redlands, Servo Motion Studios. Okay, we're on the IMDb. We make 6-minute movies and we sell them to Netflix and things like that, right? So back then I had all these things going on, but I was astounded how people could sit back on the phone and just pull money out and get money for their company. That was called a Lehman's agreement. A Lehman's agreement is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I told you I'm going to tell you some things you may not ever heard before. We're going to go down to the lower levels that everybody is talking about on the internet, but let's start here. You might want to build an Empire State Building, right? Or maybe you want to leave a legacy to your children and they want to build Walmart later. So we do something called a scratch pub co. That means taking a company from scratch, nothing. As long as you got a social security card and you have an ID, we can take you to a publicly traded company if that's your desire, or anything in between. Thus the name Scratch Pub Co. Company. That's a high finance term. So you can go in with that Lehman's agreement, and that was made by Lehman Brothers. But during the crash, Lehman Brothers got wiped out a little bit there. But they still have implementation on the Lehman's agreement. So if you want to go public and your company is built properly, first of all, we should have a micro and a macro. Your micro is your idea where you live well. You have a beautiful home, you have homes in the mountains, you have Rolex, you have, you live well. You're your $1 million deal. But very few people think about their macro. The macro is your $1 billion pitch. What are you going to do for that billion? This is not a $1 million world anymore. One house in California is $1 million. Single family home. So we have to have a micro and a macro. What's your macro? And I kind of hit on some of those things as like the note is going to be the highest form at attaining your macro. But we'll talk about that later if you're interested in question and answers. Now let's step it down. When me and my buddy Kyle got into this, we started taking companies public because we had the vessel of the Lehman's agreement. We had a boutique. They don't call them boiler rooms anymore because the person, Richard Gatsby, when you watch that movie tonight, you'll see that's the guy that trained us. They made that movie about him. He lives in La Jolla Coves, but he got his hands slapped by the SEC, Securities Exchange Commission. So he put other people's faces in the place of him. So he used us and all these other guys to run his boiler room. So now they call them boutiques. So you may never have heard those terms before, but they exist among the Latin speakers and the wealthy. Donald Trump will know what one is. Oprah will know what one is. So now, or people who are publicly traded. So 5, 4, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What that means is this boutique will go in and solicit these funds like I told you about in the boiler room. And they will say, if they get you for your company $1 million, you pay them 5%. If they get you $2 million, if you pay $2 million, you pay 4%. If they get you $1 million, It's 5%. 2 million, see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 million is going to be 4%. 4%. 3 million is going to be 3%. And anything over 4 million is going to be 1%, plus a little teeny equity share. So that's taking companies public. We can also not just sell them corporations. We can also do the Warren Buffett method. We can go in and say, listen, how about I link up with you, get you the money for the business, and own a part of the business if I get you the money. But we're taking 10%. Most people on the internet say, oh, I'll charge you 10% for funding. Well, there's many ways to skin this rabbit. That's just something to think about. If you know how to get people money, then you can go in and say, they do what you tell them, what you say to them. If a guy says, get me $500,000, 10%, that's 50 grand to me, and then you walk on, this guy has a $10 million company, just like the guy that just called me. I just helped him get a $15 million company with GE. So you're going to say, well, Warren Buffett does mergers, acquisitions, and sales, right? That's high finance. If he can't buy you, he'll merge with you. He can't merge with you, and then he'll just, he'll try to, buy the company and sell it. One way or the other, mergers, acquisitions, and sales. So how do you go in with the person? You say, I'll get you the $400, $300, $500,000. And since I get you the money, then make me, a part of your company. Give me some shares. That's much better than having a person just say bye-bye. You connect them for life. And once you get those shares, you can go to the bank and say, I have these shares in this $1 million company. So that's another level of thinking, right? So now Kyle and I were taking companies public. And what happened was we noticed that people didn't have the proper foundation in order to go public. So we stepped down and we started getting the people's proper foundation, right? Because if you build a house on 6 inches of concrete, you can't build a second story because you should have built it on 12 inches of concrete. It won't hold it. So what we want to do is get a C corporation, which is like the United States of America, which is your mannequin, which can do everything all the corporations can do. And we want to build an upside down T. That means growing wide and growing tall. Wide means expansion of your businesses, maybe franchise or whatever. So we can keep in these people's pocket and say, we're going to expand you more and more. The money is in tranches, not one hit. So we also want to grow tall in revenue. They call it money. It's revenue. And we grow wide in expansion. That's the upside down T in high finance. So we noticed that we had to structure these people's company properly to take them public. So we stepped down and we concentrated on that. By the way, Kyle Freeman, they wrote a book about him, and he never went to any highfalutin school or anything, and they wonder how he took his company public. So he went from a nickel to $2 a share, instant, in 2 years. This guy had $50 million. So a short story, the Wolf of Wall Street came in, bifurcated his shares, took everything out of his business and said, you're going to make me a part of your business, so I'm going to destroy your business. He went to visit him and his partner says, screw you. He said, okay, fine. Within 2 months, his company was destroyed. Kyle almost had a nervous breakdown. So he moved from Temecula, from San Diego, to where all the banks are, and went into insurance. So I called him and hounded him and said, Kyle, you got to get off that couch. You got to come back, get back in. Let's get it going. So after about a couple of years, he finally convinced him, and we went back in and we opened this business. We've been in business about 22 years in high finance. So we started now understanding we had to have the proper foundation. So we went in now and we started explaining to people the difference in corporations. So everybody says, I got my LLC. That's because they're smart enough to realize that I got to get out of this Aramaic and at least have a corporation. But they don't understand what the corporations are meant for. So first of all, LLC is limited liability corporation. So imagine if you walked up to a lady or some guy walked up to a lady and he said, you know what, we have a lot of synergy. I think we have a good time. We laugh, we joke together. It's really good. We're evenly yoked, all of that. She said, yeah, okay, I'm feeling the same. I'm feeling you. So, well, let me get your number. She says, okay. He says, but hold on. I just want to let you know, I have a little liability. She's going to look at you like, what? What do you mean liability? And then you're going to say, okay, and I want to divulge this to you because I don't want to keep no secrets from you. I'm also a little limited. And she's going to say, limited in what? So she's going to hold back on giving you that number. Just like the bank is going to hold back on giving you that good money. Because banks don't go risky. They don't risk their money on babies or anything limited. Limited liability companies are for risk things, like a doctor. The doctor is usually a LLP, limited partnership, or a limited, LLC. So she operates on you, or he operates on you, or on a person and makes a mistake. You say, I'm suing you. He or she says, that's fine, but I'm limited in liability and I'm licensed and insured and you're not getting anything from me. That's for liability. Banks realize liability, so they don't deal much in big money with limited liability corporations. So if you say, well, Derrick, I'm going to take you to dinner for all this free information. I say, well, fine. People do that all the time. I says, okay, fine. But really what they want to do is just pick my brain further, so they take me to dinner. All right. So I say, okay, where we going? So we'll say, and this will happen. She says, we're going to Mama's Soul Food Cooking, LLC. I said, I'm not eating there. She said, why not? I said, it's a limited liability company. What is the liability? Does she have arsenic in the food? What's the liability? Am I going to die? What? I'm not eating there. So I laughed it off. I said, she probably doesn't realize, at least she's trying not to be an Aramaic speaker, but she doesn't know the entirety of what she's doing. So I went in and I explained to the lady. I said, ma'am, let me explain to you. I do business funding. And this, that. I'm an economist. I said, so you might want to change that and make that your holding corp. And then get your C corp, right? And then do your DBAs under it. And then take that holding corp and say, everything that we own belongs to you, and write a letter, have it notarized. And now when somebody sues you, you're fully protected. And then the people in the holding corp, that's why you have Bank of America Holdings. That's why all these Fortune 500 companies have holding corps, right? So, and then the holding corp should be a trust where the people in the holding corp, the officers or the shareholders, are in the trust outside the jurisdiction of the United States. So now it's a brick wall. That's called a corporate veil. So if we're going to be doing corporate things and funding and this and that, we need to know what we're doing, right? Because you're landing people into a 6-foot home, 6 inches of concrete, when you can put them in a skyscraper. Right? Build the Eiffel Tower, or at least have the potential, because if you want to sell it and they say it's an LLC, they know they can't take it public. So that takes away your value. Every company should have a valuation. Okay, so now we're talking about the proper structure of the business. So I said we should always have the ability to pull a shelf corp off the shelf, because banks don't deal with rookies. So when you buy a new corporation, you can get a little something from the bank. And if it's an LLC, you're definitely getting a little something from the bank. But they realize it's risky and we can't go any further. But what if it's a new corp and it's not an LLC? The second corporation would be a S corporation. An S corporation is going to be for investors. So a person says, I'm an investor. I got a $500,000 I want to put in your company, but I don't want to be a part of your company because I don't want to pay capital gains tax. I want to be a part of your company. He says, fine. I have a S corp that's just perfect for what you're trying to do. And he says, okay, great. That's an S corp. Then you have a C corp, which is the mama of corps. Banks love them because they can do everything every other corporation can do except nonprofit, which is a corporation that turns into a nonprofit. So a C corp is the United States of America, mannequin. You can issue stock. You never issue shares because you're giving a piece of your business away. So you know how people say, well, I have these investors, so I gave them 20% of the business. I'm looking at them like, bad deal, because you don't understand finance. The shareholders are the shareholders. If you got 3 partners, they stay 3 partners. If you got a person owns all the shares, that's it. You don't give out anymore. I was the venture capitalist. We dealt with a $10 million hedge fund. As a venture capitalist, you go in and you look at a person's business and you say, okay, I like that business, a good business. We're going to make you rich, put the money in the business for you to grow. But what we're going to do is we're going to take 61% of ownership, because they say, why? Have you ever ran a $10 million business? No. Well, we're not going to trust you to be the CEO of this. So they give away 61% of their business. And as a VC, that's your job, to go in, make sure that this business is going to make 85% of all investors. And 15% is going to be, you can lose 15% as a VC, but 85% you must gain. Okay, so anybody that just came in, I'll take a brief overview once this is over. So I don't want you to miss anything. There's a lot of things that you've never heard of before. And I don't just want to educate you on how to go get somebody some money or go get yourself some money, but I want to make you the CEO, not just giving a card saying I'm the CEO, but the true CEO of your company. So that not only do you have the money, but once you get the money, now you can succeed. So I'm not Tony Robbins. I'm not here to motivate you. If you're not motivated after 400 years, then I can't motivate you at all. I'm here teaching economic masonry, the secrets of masonry, not your masonry of your Illuminati or your Kabbalah or your science, science, astrology, and monotheism. That I did the 30 years of masonry a long time ago, and I found out it was all about me. Hiram Ibis. Hiram or Chiram in the Bible, right? So we're not going to teach that. What we're going to do is teach economics, because Black lives don't matter because they don't have any money and they don't understand economics. And what I'm going to show you, most people don't understand a third of it, a tenth of it. I'm teaching you Latin. Hopefully I can give you something that you haven't heard before. So the last part of the corporation is the third corp. We mentioned LLC. It's a limited liability. Banks don't like that. We've mentioned the S corp. That's for investors. So you don't want to have an LLC if you got a restaurant, because banks, they don't lend to restaurants. They don't lend to real estate. So you need to be able to have the proper SIC code so you can go in and get what you need. That's just a relapse here, just a circle here. So the corporation should have the proper structure. Again, let me go and finish up here. The C corp is the mama corp. Now you have the nonprofit. And as I said earlier, those that speak Aramaic, which is a poor language, they think a nonprofit is, for like, helping the public or getting government grants, or going to feed the public, but that's for the 85% Aramaic poor people. 2,000 years ago, they couldn't speak. They couldn't read. They couldn't write. They spoke Aramaic. The rich people spoke Latin. So today we're going to learn Latin. And if you ever hear the term a Maytag, that's Latin. But like Donald Trump is never going to say, I need a nonprofit. He's going to say, I need a Maytag. And it's just as it sounds. To wash money is illegal. But a Maytag, we know what Maytags do, washers and dryers, right? So I don't advocate washing money. I don't advocate anything illegal. I'm not a broker. I'm not a finder. And I'm not an attorney or a tax person. If you need any of those things, please consult an attorney or someone in that field, right? So I don't advocate beating the bank because the bank is your friend. The bank has more money than Bezos, Trump, and Oprah put together because that's where they get the money from them. And then they go another level and they get the money from investors. So let's go first and get the money from the bank. So the third thing is a Maytag. You go in, you say, I want a Maytag. I need a Maytag. If you put $10 million in a corporation, if you make $10 million and you put the money back in it, you're not taxed like a sole proprietorship at 37, almost 40%. So now you say, I got $1 million. I got to find something to put in it. I done bought the Bentley. Because the Bentley, we have high-end, clients. We need a high-end car. We need a nice house because we're going to bring the clients to our home. It belongs to the corporation, not you. You're just an officer. You taste, feel, touch, smell, and hear for it. You don't own a corporation, right? It is a person, a legal entity. But it needs you to help it. So when somebody has a corporation and you notice some people have one person on their corporation, right? One officer. They're doing everything. I'm a banker. They don't like that. That's like you saying, in the restaurant, you walk in and say, hey, may I help you? You open the door for the greeter. Then you run behind the counter and you say, okay, what would you like? And then you say, your server's going to be with you in a minute. Then you put the server hat on and go run over to the table and go serve them. Then you run up and wash your hands and you go out and help the cook. Then you run back out and then you say, oh, here's your server. Then you say, you're going to have a guy come in and, oh, the bathroom's flooded. Now you're the maintenance man. You're everything. So what do you think it looks like to a bank when you're the only person on a corporation? These are the little things that underwriters look like. We need to think like an underwriter. Okay, so now, you go in, you take that $1 million because you can't find anywhere to put that extra million. You say, man, I'm having a hard time. So Trump will say, man, I need a Maytag. I say, wow, you made too much money, Trump. Like, yeah, I can't find a place. So he takes his wife, like the Bill Gates Foundation nonprofit. His wife has a Maytag. So he takes that extra money, throws it into her foundation, and all she has to do is show that she did something with 15%. She gets to keep the 85% back into their household or their business. That's why a nonprofit is there. It's not there to feed the public. You want to feed the public? Go out and have a for-profit, make yourself a bunch of money, then set up some tables and go buy some food. Okay, so banks do not lend to nonprofits. That's some governmental stuff, and then it's nonprofit. Just listen to the name. So the next thing is there's many types of corporations. There's syndicates. There's like the mafia. They have a syndicate. So that means we have formed a corporation, a syndicate where everybody has come together, families, and we're going to work together so that we can take this money and make it legal, like Las Vegas. So number two, you should never get a corporation out of Delaware or Las Vegas or any of these places. Delaware is a place when you're going to take a company public, you get a corp. That's where the United States of America is out of, Delaware. It's a corporation. So why are they hiring politicians to run a corporation? I have no idea. Because it's politics. It's quid pro quo. So anyway, if you look at our landing page and our website, I help politicians, I help senators, governors. You look at them hugging me and seeing me. One of the people on the landing page is Dr. Shirley Weber. who has now taken the vice president's place as the Secretary of State of California. So you'll see me with pictures of her, and you'll see me with a lot of basketball players, football players on their testimonials saying, thank you, Derrick. So I'm pretty much the best kept quiet secret. You got Catino Mobley on there. Talk to him at least once a week. We got, you got numerous people on there. That's to the left is Dr. Shirley Weber. Over to the right of her is Kimberly Ellis. She's the Democratic president of the Democratic Party. She's the person that gives you the money to run. If she doesn't like you, she give you a little money, you won't win, right? If you look down from that, then you have a congresswoman. The guy in the red tie is the guy that's Obama, and he's the attorney for Congress and president. The guy down below here, the Mexican guy down at the bottom with the tie on, that's Carnitas. He is the representative of all Mexicans, cartels, everybody. You get on his bad side, you got trouble. The lady down here is Taisha Brown. Look her name up, Taisha Brown. She's the black head of this and everything in politics, San Diego. On the down at the bottom is a senator. Up at the top is a congressman. You see his Congress pin on. You see over here, over to the right, second to the right, that's a senator. So these are people that I deal with. I actually spoke at the Democratic Party on why are you trying to get people jobs? Why don't you get them corporations? So a lot of times what I do is I show people when I do seminars, I show them the first money ever made in the United States. And the first money ever made in the United States is what they call a Fugio. So this is what I showed to them, and I got a standing ovation. So this is the first money ever made in the United States. That's called a Fugio. It's $0.33. Benjamin Franklin designed it and made it up. If you look at the bottom, it says, mind your business. Mind your business. Right? And then you see they didn't have clocks back then. So they told time with like a sundial, and the sun is down shining on the sundial. So on the side is Latin, if you notice, Fugio. Mind your business. Why are they saying mind your business? Because back then, everybody had their own business. So nobody worked for anybody unless you were an apprentice that you were going to learn something, blacksmithing or whatever, to open your own business. So what I'm trying to show you today is Latin. Here's another one. And here's the first, and here's more of the money. This is the first money, Fugio. Fugio simply means, they didn't mean mind your business, stay out of my business. What they meant is that everybody has a business, so look after it and take care of it and do it right, because time is moving fast. That's what Fugio means. As you can see, it says Fugio. Mind your business. So why doesn't everybody have a business today? Because they don't understand Latin. 85% are workers, and 10% run the world, all the money, and 5% know what's going on. So what I'm trying to do is make you like the Jay-Z's and the Erykah Badu's. They call them the commons. They call themselves 5%ers because they know what's going on. So let's get back to the structure of the corporation. So now you understand the 4 different types of corporations. Now let's look at the requirements. The requirements is banks don't like rookies. So if you walk in there with a new company, they're going to say, how old is this company? You're going to say, well, it's Yeah, I got it last month. They're gonna say, well, can you get this baby out of here before he wets my desk or something? So banks require 2.5 or 3 years before they even consider dealing with you. So why would you bring in a baby when you can purchase from, instead of going to LegalZoom, you know how many people are LegalZoom for these new companies? But that's because they want to do business and have protection, but they don't understand they can't get any money. So the wealthy build a company so they can get money. The poor put their money in the bank, and the rich lends the money out to rich people like me from your money that you put in. The bank is not a holding institution. It is called a lending institution. So we have to get to lending and start getting some of that money that they're lending. Hope that makes sense. So now, once we understand the banks don't like rookies, so you say, well, what do we do? Well, how we get around that, Derrick? Well, they have something that's called a seasoned age shelf corporation that's unpublished. So a seasoned in age means the same thing. A seasoned age corporation is a corporation that you can purchase, pull it off, and now you pass the 3 years that the bank wants you to have to deal with you. So the next thing is seasoned age shelf corp, because even though somebody can sell you a corporation online, how do you know that it doesn't have bad credit? Something that somebody already had before, they could have used. It could have UCC filings, UCC1 against it. It can have bad credit. It can have bad experience. You know, well, we could check experience. We could check this and that. Well, can you check Small Business Financial Exchange? No, you can't.
Hi. How you doing?
Hello. So did someone just join? Did someone just join?
Yeah, someone just joined. I think his mic was on though. I don't know. You gotta mute yourself, Clipper. But we'll have questions at the end.
So for those that just joined, I'll give a quick overview in the end during the question and answer period, because I want to get your input on this and answer any questions you may have had. You may have. So right now we're talking about banks don't like to deal with babies, right? So the same way you can buy a baby corporation, you can buy a seasoned age shelf unpublished corporation. So if you purchase, some people on here may know about that. They may have heard about that. But on the internet, they're not going to teach you the inside of it. I've been doing this for 22 years. I've been making CPNs 20 years ago, before anybody knew what it was. That's a privacy number that you build, and you have many numbers that you can build. You can build credit in a trust. You can build credit in a CPN. But they're kind of playing out now because the bank's getting hip to the CPNs. But it's what CPNs are for, people that have like senators and governors, and they don't want anybody playing with their credit. Presidents, but you're allowed one, only one, and not in somebody else's name. So of course we can go to Stephen P. Morse and we can go build our own CPNs and we can knock that out. That's another conversation. Okay, so now the same way somebody goes in and buys a new corporation, which they can't get any money for, lining up at a LegalZoom, right? They can buy an old corporation that's seasoned age shelf. Seasoned age means old, and they'll sell you that, but then you'll turn around and say, hey, this had bad credit. They say, well, it's a seasoned age corp. You can't do anything about it. But that's why you purchase a seasoned age shelf corp. So you get a shelf for maybe attorneys or somebody who aged them like fine wine. And they never had an EIN number attached to them. They just paid the taxes on, they paid the fees on them. And now when you're ready to buy it after 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, then you bypass the problems that you have with the bank of it being a baby. But if you go in and you get a seasoned age shelf corporation, now you say, well, I got it made. I got a seasoned age shelf corporation. All I got to do is build it, structure it the proper way, I walk in. But a lot of times people don't understand that A bank can go in. I was a banker. I taught banks. So banks can go in and say, we saw this corporation online being sold, because they can see that, right? They have a special algorithm. They don't do it all the time, but do you want to be the one sitting without a seat when they do it? That's why you need an unpublished corporation, a corporation that is seasoned, age, nobody's ever used it, and unpublished. That means if somebody sells you a seasoned, age shelf corporation, they don't put it online for sale. They send you a list, you pick from the list, and it's never been on online for sale. These are some of the secrets that people don't understand. Another thing is, if these people are saying, I got a 10-year, 20-year-old corporation, and then they pay $30,000 for the court because they put a couple of little trade lines in there, some merchant accounts, some euro lines, and some little stuff like that. And they think they're going to go in and get a bunch of money. That's just like you having a personal credit and having a $500 secured card. Sure, you got a 780 credit score, but what bank is going to lend you 100, 2, 3, 4, 500,000 because you got a secured card? Nobody. So the thing is, you have to build it the correct way. You have to understand the 5 major bureaus: Equifax, Experian, Small Business Financial Exchange, Dun & Bradstreet, and PayNet. So we'll go over that in a second. So now the proper structure is, you have your corporation in hand. The corporation is not over 7 years. Because remember, a corporation turns into dog age after 7 years. So a person's bragging, I bought a 20-year-old corp offline. No good. Because the bank is going to say, you're 20 years old. That means you're 60. Because you're a person, a corporation is a person. So they're going to say, where's your this? Where's your financials? Where's your that? Where's your tax 2 years of taxes? Where's the full doc? They want full doc. So now you can't supply that. So they're going to say, either you're a poor business person and we ain't lending you no money, or you're a liar. Or you're a liar. So now, if they go in and they see that your corporation was sold online, then they're going to red flag you, and you're not going to get credit anywhere. You can do business, but you'll never get credit anywhere. Unpublished is what you want. So now, once you go in and get yourself the proper structure, you go in and say, okay, I'm not a baby. What these guys are doing online, they are 22 years. I know what's going on, right? What they're doing is they're going to a state. And by the way, never go to any of these states that everybody's going to, because banks are taught to look deeper into those states because it's more potential for fraud. So you're not going to go to Arizona. You're not going to go to, Arizona, Delaware, and all these places that people usually go to, right? You're going to go to the redneck states because they don't scrutinize them. Like I told you, there's no regulation amongst this. So they do what they want to do, and they go to the redneck states. No regulation in corporate funding or corporate credit or corporate business. And they don't have morals. You have to bring the morals to the table. And greed will get you asked out every time. I must say that it has nothing. You say, what is he saying? That has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But I have to let everybody know that I've done well, very well. I've acquired a lot of knowledge, but I keep my moral factors up because there's enough money for everybody. And when you get greedy, it crumbles everything you're trying to do. There's infinite money. So how can you get greed when that's like you being at a friend's house whose father owns a biscuit company, and you're sitting at the table stealing biscuits. He's looking at you like, bro, we don't have to steal biscuits, man. We own a biscuit company. But you continue to steal biscuits. Then look at you like, this guy, what's wrong with him? It's infinite biscuits. So let's get back to the corporate structure. So the corporate structure is Season 8 Shelf Corporation, not a baby. And what these guys are doing, they're going in and they're taking the corporation that's been dissolved or have not paid the yearly fees, right? So it's not active. And then they go into non-active in the state wherever they want to go, and they buy that corp and pay the $100 or $200 on that corp. Now they own it. So that corp has brought it back active for $200, and they turn around and sell it to you for 10, 5, 10, 15, 20, well, $10,000, $15,000. Some corp that they brought back active. That's all they're doing. But a bank can go in and look at the history. It's public information. So they see it's been dissolved. They're like, well, you must be a poor business person. And now all of a sudden, in the last couple of months, this corp has been brought back to life. Oh, you think we're stupid? No, they're not stupid. We're not stupid. So the next thing is you want a corporation that doesn't have all that baggage, because it could have bad credit. So they bring it back to life. How do they know it doesn't have bad credit? It belonged to someone else before, and they had an EIN number attached to it. So they say, well, we checked it all out. Well, what about if some drug dealer just wrote, a note and says, hey, I'm lending you this money, just give me this, I'm putting it in my drawer. I'm not going to report this to anybody. And now you're doing well, and some guy pops up and says, hey, man, you owe me some money. You'll say, no, I don't. He says, that's not what this paper says. So you don't want that. Seen it? So now, Season 8 Shelf Unpublished Corporation. So whenever that corporation is properly built, so we're going to go in, we're going to have the proper SIC code, we're going to have the proper address. So banks don't like you where you're doing business out of your home, because a corporation is a person. So that's your poor cousin asking to use laying on your couch. They don't like you to have they want a landline. Can't use your own cell phone for your number. A lot of people do. That's your poor cousin asking to use your phone. So we'll go in and we'll get you the landline. A lot of times people say, well, we know how to get around that. We have a virtual office. Well, that's fine and good. But a lot of times when you want that good money, the bank may ask you for a lease. So we're going to go in and get you a shelf corporation. We're going to go in and get you your proper structure. We're going to go in and get you the for $50 or whatever, get your company where you have a place to stay, for your corporation to stay with a lease. Some people may know this, but I don't know who knows what. So I'm just giving you the painting the full picture for you. Then you go in and get yourself your landline, but banks also like an 800 number also, vanity number. So you go in and get that for like $9 a month. Vanity number, rings to your phone and you're in the business there. Now you go in, you get your, say for instance, the bank says, okay, we understand you got this, 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 and this, but where's your Facebook presence? Where's your online presence? You don't have that. They're going to say, well, wait a minute. What kind of business been around 5 years and don't have an online presence? Because if you don't go over 7 years, they will lend you money, but you just need a PG. They say you're not a baby, we'll deal with you, but you're not a fully grown up. So they say, okay, you're not over. So the sweet spot is somewhere between 3 and 5 years. You go over 7 years, they're going to say you're a poor business person or something's wrong. Now, the next thing is, if you're going to be a PG, you use yourself with your good credit. Well, let's table that for a second. Let's finish the proper structure. So you go in, you take your You take your, you got your lease, you got your address, you got your phone numbers. Now you go in and say, okay, where's your Facebook or your, your on-presence site? What company doesn't have an on-presence site? So what you do is you go and you get a Facebook account or whatever, and you make it private. So they know you have it, but they don't know when you opened it. You need to have all your arrows lined up. Right? So now you got that done. Now you're going to go in, you're going to hit that website. You don't have a website? Even if you have a one-pager, it suffices. So they're going to say, okay, you got a website, but I know they're going to go in and check who is going to tell them how many times your website has been hit. So you want to go in, if you're under 40, no go. Because how are you getting your sales? So you got to go in and hit at least 60 times and get that website pop. 60 hits. These are the secrets. And then we have more and more, a little more and more and more. So now, when we started taking companies public, we noticed companies needed to have the proper foundation to go public. So we stepped down, my partner Kyle Freeman and I, that they wrote the book about. And for those who just joined, you can go public and set your sites at $1 billion. You should have a micro and a macro. Your micro is your $1 million thoughts. Your macro is your $1 billion thoughts. If a rapper can make $50 million and he can't even read, you as a businessman speaking Latin should easily be able to go in and generate $1 billion. So you have your micro, you need also a macro. So if you make it you want to go to the moon and you make it to the stars, you're doing okay. So now, we understood that you needed to have your proper structure. So that's how we got into building the proper structure. So now let's go down to the scratch, because we do a scratch pub co. That's a high finance term for taking a company from scratch to a publicly traded company or anything in between. So now we understood the proper structure had to be done. So we went into that. 10 years, we got that mastered. Then we went it down one. We said, well, these people here need to have a PG to get the seed capital. So what we're looking for is, in a scratch pubco, are the rules. If you follow the rules, you will have 99% success. It is against the law to promise anyone 100%. It's against the rules, the law. But you may know how to drive a car. But if you never took the driving test, then you're going to do very poorly if you try to go from one state to the other. Because you're going to get tickets, you may get a felony driving over 100 miles an hour. You don't know the rules of the road. So these are the rules of economic masonry. And do me a favor, do not share this info. The only way that you're supposed to share this is if you get paid or you've been drinking. Lucky for you, I've been doing some drinking. So now I've been taught that the game is to be sold and not told. So a lot of times people want to go out and brag about all the stuff that they know. But that's not good, because once the word gets out to everybody, the game is up. Now we got to switch the game. So now we understood, in order to have fund a corporation, you're not a baby, but you're not a grown-up. So they'll give you that $100, $200, $300, $400, $500,000. So if you want $1 million, you get $300,000 for one corp. Do 3 corps and get you $900,000. Pull a corp off the shelf. Always have access to capital. That's what Donald Trump does. That's what Oprah does. All of them do that. That's Latin, not Aramaic, the poor language. So to be a PG is a personal guarantor. So to take the personal guarantor, they must have good credit. So that's when we took it down a notch and said, well, now we got to, figure this whole credit thing out. So as I mentioned, I'm a mechanical engineer. I built missiles for the military, went around the world, been down the Barren Straits, helped build the Patriot missile system. I was on the Tarawa, the Nimitz, the mothballs some ships. been on aircraft carriers and the whole nine, nuclear subs. And I'm very meticulous. So when I went in, I said, okay, credit it is. So I went in and I said, okay, it's underneath the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and then there's Collections Fair Debt Reporting Act. I read that thing 70 times. 609, 617. So then I found out, okay, they're breaking the law. So they're doing, so some people are saying, well, we're doing, FTC reports. And some people say, well, we're doing, if they're on another level, where we're doing Oscar. Well, then if some people are doing, shutting down and saying, they know bankruptcy courts don't report. So they're lying right there. That's third-party information because LexisNexis holds that information. SageStream is holding the information. They're not going to the original creditor. So there's many ways of attacking the, you can have a pea shooter, or you can do the basic disputes pea shooter. You can pull out a shotgun and you can do FTC, or you can pull out a nuclear explosion and do Oscar. It depends on where you want to go. So we went into that and we attacked it with the laws, right? So I got into section 15 of U.S. Code. You can order that book, and that's going to give you a deeper aspect of UCC and GAAP, General Accountants Acceptance Principles. But we don't have to know all of that. I'm here to take you from scratch to publicly traded company or anything in between. So now that I've explained from the top to the middle to the bottom, what I'm doing to do is wrap it up, because if we go over 40 minutes in a webinar or seminar, people begin to not remember anything or not recall, and then I have to regurgitate it again. So again, I'm Derrick Whitehead from Global Conceptual Group, and there's a lot of other things. Let's do this. Before we go out of that, the 5 major bureaus. We have to know what our customers want. We just don't go in willy-nilly and say, well, you get, for this amount of money, you can get $50 million, $100 million, you can get $1 million, you get $500,000, $300,000, making promises just on money. That's not the correct way. The correct way is to find out what your customer wants or what the needs are of that individual and meet those needs. It's not cookie cutter. For instance, some people may want to buy a truck. I help people get trucking companies all the time and get fleet of trucks. The bureaus, Experian, Equifax, Small Business Financial Exchange, Dun & Bradstreet, and PayNet. If you want to go in and you want to get equipment, let's say computers, furniture, fax machines, phones, cars, trucks, those are called equipment loans. So who are they going to check? If you want an equipment loan, people say, I'm giving you corporate trade lines. Okay, you give me corporate trade lines. I don't need corporate trade lines on everything. I'm trying to get trucks. I just need PayNet. So you build your PayNet for that person. Maybe a person wants those store cards, like or merchant accounts. So maybe they want Apple card, or Walmart card, Lowe's card. Maybe they're builders and they want materials. Walmart, Lowe's, and places like that. Those store cards are going to be Dun & Bradstreet, but Dun & Brad has to be built organically. So people say, I'll get you your 80 paydex score. An 80 paydex score is the same as a 780 credit score. You need an 80 paydex. Anything under 80 is kind of iffy to a bank. That means you pay your bills on time. Anything over 80 means you pay your bills before they're due. So if you're going to go in and you want maybe installment lines, lines of credit, the actual credit cards, revolving cards, then you're going to check. They're going to check Experian, Equifax, or Small Business Financial Exchange. But Equifax, I'm in the business. We also sell trade lines. So you don't need to put a person on, with, we give you $200,000 worth of trade lines. Really? the problem with that is that's piggybacking usually. And banks don't like piggybacking. They want you to earn your credit. So you'll say, get a corporate builder, or for $900, you get a corporate builder from Dun & Brad, or you could just go in and say, I got credit from this company, but they never reported me. They say, okay, give us their name, but they have to be hooked up with us also, Dun & Brad, and we'll call them and verify. That's piggybacking. But let's look at this from a banker's perspective. You're not stupid. So you walk in, you get these people to put these trade lines on there, right? And now after 6 months, you want to go back and get another tranche of money, 3 to 6 months. And the bank says, wait a minute, you got $100,000 here, $100,000 on all 4 places, and none of these have gone down at all. Don't you pay down a car? A pay net? Don't you pay down cards? Nothing's paid down. Something's wrong here. Now you're getting red flagged. They're not going to give you any more money, right? So the best way to get corporate lines is what we sell. Very few people are selling corporate trade lines the right way. What we sell is what they call reassignment of the debt. So I work with some guys who are what they call investment bankers. They got $1 billion. They buy $50-60 million worth of corporate debt, non-performing, at 3 cents on the dollar. They own it, then they can do whatever they want with it. They can throw it in the trash and say, listen, I just threw your debt in the trash. You don't owe me nothing. But what they do is they say, okay, you want to accept this debt? You say, yes, I'll accept it. We'll sign this paper and we'll take this $100,000 credit card, put it on your file, and now you owe us $100. But we're going to show that it's paid down to like $5,000. And we're going to pay it down through Metro 2. Directly reporting every month is going to show where it's being paid down, down, down. That's the only way, correct way to get corporate trade lines. So these people selling you corporate trade lines, and we could put on $25,000 to $1 million. So if you want to buy an apartment complex, you look up a guy named Coach Hinton. Coach Hinton. I know Jaden looked him up and called him, and another person called him up, and he reached out to them. I trained him. This guy's a multimillionaire, and he's buying apartment complexes, and now he's raising funds because he's dealing with Kyle, my partner. He's raising funds now. So now I mentored him and trained him. So the only real way to put those trade lines on, if you want to buy an apartment complex, of course you're going to need higher limits. But suppose you only want $50,000 on Experian, and you want $100,000 on Experian, $100,000 on PayNet. Not PayNet, $100,000 Experian. Well, you can do $100,000 across the board. Maybe you want $50,000 on PayNet. Maybe you want more because you're going to buy trucks. You want more on PayNet. Can they actually put what you want, where you want it, how you want it? We have to make sure that we're doing things the right way. So one of the issues is of course we can get the season age court. Of course we can build it properly. Of course we're going to have the proper SIC code to get that money. Of course we're going to go in and get the corporate trade lines. And then we're going to hand it over to Jaden, and Jaden's going to fund the hell out of it. He's a genius. He's 20 years old. So now what we're doing is we're learning the correct way to not go in and say, I want some money, I'm going to save up for it. You know, after you made $100,000 a year, how much is that going to go to your lifestyle and your car payments and your home payments and everything? You're left with 10 grand. What can you do with 10 grand? So you go and you say, I'm not going to do it the poor Aramaic way. I'm going to do it the Latin way, because this is the good old boys club and good old slowly becoming the good old girls club. I can't stress that enough. They are passing us. It's no longer, red face, good old boys, ha ha, we're Illuminati, we know something you don't know. They're coming in and they're learning this stuff and doing it the right way. So there's no need for Section 8. There's no need for government cheese. There's no need for free healthcare. Keep it. I'll just take me a court, fund it. Willie needs some money. Willie speaks Latin. Willie is built the proper way. Okay, wonderful. Would you like to open a bank account here and we'll put the money in the account? Yes. You're approved. Done. Now do it the right way and come back for your second tranche. Or if you need more money, erase your inquiries, because when you are PG on the corporation, because you're not fully grown, they're going to put an inquiry on your credit, but they're not going to put the terms on your credit, because it's not your credit cards. It's the corporation's credit cards, the corporation's lines of credit. So now, after a while, the game is to PG it, and if you go bad, they will put a bad on your personal credit. They will show negative. But the game is to get PG it. You get the 300, 400, whatever, 500,000, whatever in the court, but you PG'd it. Now the court grows big enough to get funds on its own. Now it borrows on its own the 300,000, 400,000, pays off your debt. Now you're free. And now if you go wrong, they say, Willie Corporation has gone wrong. It's got bad credit, but you don't try to go wrong because they reward you with more money as long as you pay the bill. So why would you beat the bank? And another thing is people are going in just to get money and have no idea what they want to do with it. That's not what we're here for. So we also train in real estate. We also do seminars, webinars in scratch pub code in real estate. You want to be what they call a finder, go out and find some property, or you want to be a flipper, or you want to buy apartment complexes like we trained Coach Hinton to do, or you want to just sell notes like the bank and hit that $1 billion level, to take 3% of $100 and buy it because it's not performing, because the bank has to get rid of them. So you say, I want to buy a portfolio of homes at 3 cents on the dollar that they're not paying on. They call it non-performing notes. They cannot lend out more money unless they get rid of that and free up so they can lend out more. So they'll give it to you 3 cents on the dollar once they write it off, and that's credit cards, boats, yachts, jets, planes. Okay. How do you think a lot of these rich people get in these jets? Right? You buy the portfolio, you buy the note on the jet. When the person doesn't, now you own it, right? So you got 3 cents on the dollar. So now if the person doesn't pay, you default on them and you take the jet. See? So now everything has a note. The dollar bill in your pocket has a note. Read it, Federal Reserve note. It is a debt. Debt is good. The difference is letting credit use you, or Aramaic, or you using credit, Latin. One of the ways you can use credit is a guy around the corner has suffering from corona in his family. He needs the money. You just got a 10,000 credit card. Aramaic, hey, honey, let's go shopping. Now you're in more debt. Now you got to go work double time to go get that credit card paid down. Aramaic, Latin speaker says, I got a $10,000 credit card. A guy around the corner, honey, selling his car for 10 grand, selling it for 5 grand, but it's worth 10. So you say, okay, let's see the title, clean. Okay, let me take it to the mechanic, checks out. Here, swipe the credit card. Now you own the car. Now you have the car for 5 grand. You put it online, sell it for 9 grand. Quick, not 10. Now you just made yourself 4 grand. You pay the bank back their 200 for lending it to you. They raise your credit limit, and now you got 3,800. Then you go shopping. Another thing is you can sell your credit. Once you get these credit cards, you can sell your personal credit. So you go in, you can, sell authorized users. One card has 5 people you can put on. So if a person wants to buy a house, they got a 700, they use 720. Say, well, I'll put you on my credit card. You can't do anything with the card because the bank won't let you because I don't give it permission. You won't get a card, but I'll raise your credit and I'll keep it on for a month or 2 months to do what you got to do. You pay me $500. One credit card is going to be $2,500. If you had 10 credit cards at $2,500, that's $25,000 a month doing nothing. Non-performance income. That's what we need to do. Fugio, the first money is a Fugio. Mind your business. That's the first money. Okay? Fugio means time is running fast. Take care of your business because everybody has a business in this country when this country first started. So they stole the land, they stole the people, work for free, and we don't perform. Unless you just like performing, but make sure you get your money so you don't have to struggle as a waitress while you're trying to perform. When you walk out and you do your performance and they say, oh, did you land another job? They say no. Let's say no. I didn't land another job, but you're going out getting a Mercedes or a Bentley. How are you doing that? Because I like doing this. I don't need the money. That's where we're at. Okay, so then there's other things like tour road. There's other things like there's real estate flipping. There's other things of notes. There's you can take a credit card and you go in, instead of buying a credit card, the car in your name, you take $100,000 credit card, to it in, swipe, buy it with the corporate credit card. Now you get the title, you own it. And some of the credit cards are 0% interest. So now you own it. If something happens with the court, guess what? They can never take the car. Latin, Aramaic. So there's much more where this came from. It's 22 years. My name is Derrick Whitehead. I'm glad that you came in and you were patient enough to see this through. Anybody have any questions? We'll open up now for questions and answers.
Hi, you guys are kind of familiar. Well, Jaden, you're kind of familiar with what I do. But what I was gonna ask is, so after you buy the corporation, are you also gonna help us find the right company to buy so that we can get the right cash flow? Since that's what's king. Because everybody believes that credit is king, but really it's cash flow that's king. So do you advise on that behalf as well once we get the proper foundation?
What we do here is we're consultants. And so we're here to consult you based on the whatever level that you buy into. And I'll let Jaden handle that. We will consult with you and make sure we want you to succeed. So when you get the corporation, that comes with consultation on how to get it done. We cannot do it for you because we are consultants.
Sure.
We're not brokers, we're not finders, and we're not attorneys. So we can only assist you, right? So we can't do it for you, but we are definitely willing to help you, want you to succeed. Because when you succeed, that means you're able to tell somebody else, and they look at you and say, just selling somebody corp and grabbing the money and running off is not good enough. That's greed. So most definitely, we're going to help you in any way we can and give you consultation on what you need to do. That comes along with the corporation, depending on what we have 3 different levels there. So if you one level will give you, a certain amount of calls, and another level will give you a certain amount of calls and more stuff with the corporation. So it depends on where you're buying. But at the basic level, where you're going to have your corp, you're going to have that corp in your name within 24 to 48 hours in the Secretary of State reflecting that. We're going to show you the best state to go in. Some states do different things for you. Some states protect you. Some states don't divulge a lot of information on you. Some states are good for like taking company public, so we're gonna work with you and make sure that you're in the right area.
I think.
Yeah. Hey, how you guys doing?
Good, really good.
Excellent. I guess, I had the same question as the lady before me, kind of where you kind of, where do you get the packages from? Where do we kind of get rolling with that? I just wanted to see how that works. What's the procedure, the process? Want to get started?
Yeah, you just talk to Jaden, and or you can book a call with him, and we can find out what you're exactly trying to do. Because this isn't cookie cutter. We're not just here to grab money. We're all decent. We're all doing well here.
Oh, no, I definitely understand that. I'm a knowledge junkie, so I'm listening to you guys. I feel like you guys definitely know what you're talking about, and I got a lot of things going on my side to where I can definitely use some information to take what I got going on to another level.
And what you probably want to do is have proper structure.
Yeah.
So because one of the worst things you can do is to build a house on 6 inches of concrete when you're trying to build an Empire State Building and go to the moon. And
yes,
now,
sir.
to build an Empire State Building, you have to have 40 feet of concrete.
Yes,
that
sir.
That tower is on 40 feet, but a single family home is 6 inches of concrete.
Yes, sir.
Double, so you want to have the proper foundation. So first we're going to do, in the Scratch Pub Code, we're going to do seed capital. If you don't have the seed capital, we can get it for you. Then we're going to have foundation money so that you can stand on a proper, strong foundation. Then we're going to have springboard capital. So now you can go in and go wherever you need to go. And the game is to be sold and not told. So the hardest thing to do is to keep something good to yourself. Now, of course, if other people need help, sure, but we also have affiliate programs where you can go in and say, we sell a corporation and you get a piece of the money. So what we're selling here is success and money. We're not motivating you. I'm not here to motivate you after 400 years. If we're not motivated yet, then there's nothing we can do.
Understandable.
Any other questions?
Yeah, anybody else?
Me and Jaden spoke of as well. If you hear something great enough, or obviously for obvious reasons, if you hear something great enough, is it any type of situation where you can see yourself partnering and kind of bettering and furthering the situation alone outside of what your tiers are, or what are you open to?
What we're doing first level is, of course, we'll help you with the business, sell you the corp, get your credit together, everything you need to get you some money. When somebody tells you to get you $1 million, we're not going to blow smoke up your nose and lie and say, oh yeah, we're going to get you $1 million. Lying. Okay, let's be realistic. But let's say if you wanted to get, 600,000, 900,000, then you go in and there's ways to do that. But it requires maybe 2 or 3 corporations. Maybe you don't want to go in and fund a Willie, a Harry, and a John. There's ways, but we have to know. We're not just going to go in and say, let's go get you $600,000, $900,000, whatever. And you just so you can go shopping and go buy a bunch of Ferraris. That's not what we're here for. Money, all money isn't good money. You have to have some type of moral character. So to answer your question, I'm sorry I veered off. The first thing is, of course, we're going to sell you the corporation, get your credit done, get that done. That's an option for you. The second option is we can partner up. We can go in and get you the money, and then we'll partner up and we'll take a small equity share. If we think your company is good enough. I was a VC and these guys are very bright. There's enough money for everybody. We can veer off from that and go into many other things. It's the Warren Buffett program. The third thing is we have a program coming up where we're going to be investing in real estate and investing in notes. So a lot of the people may not know what they want to do, but they know they want to get out of working for Walmart. So if we go in and get them $200,000 or $300,000, we'll say, okay, here's $20,000 for you to play with. We're going to take money to put aside so that we can service the loan. And then we're going to give you the option to invest like Greg Cardone, invest in that company that's going to have real estate. And then you can put your hard hat on and you can say, honey, let's go look at our real estate. And they're going to go wherever the real estate is. They can go in the back door, call the bank. Do they own this? Do we own this? Yes, you do. It's in that portfolio. It's real property. I like Bitcoin. I like Dogecoin, but you also have to have real property, something you can touch. In this country, Kanye West is no fool. He may act crazy, but this guy is buying up land, thousands of acres everywhere. This land is your land. This land is our land. Where's our land? So we will give the opportunity where a person can invest. We get them that 300. They get a little money to play with. We put a little money aside, the loan, and then we're going to invest in a pool like Greg Cardone and purchase the real estate. I told you, look at this guy, Coach Hinton. I trained him. He's on Instagram. And he'll tell you, you say, Derrick, he's going to say yes. So if he can do it, you can do it. So we can partner up. We can get you the money. You can go your way, get your corp and the things you need, and your credit done if needed. And then you can go about where you want to go, or you can go in and we can help you leverage it. Right? There's ways to leveraging money. Like for instance, I'm not going to go deep into it, but I was a banker. So you realize if you put $100,000 in one bank, who says you only have to have one bank account for your company? You can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 banks. And you're only worth the money that you have and what your corporation is worth. So if you got $100,000, you take $20,000, put it in this bank, 30,000, put it in this bank, 15, put it in this one, and just move that money, because money is based on water law, admiralty law. It must move or they will charge you. So if you move that money around every month, it's going to appear as though you have bank statements for 100, 100, 100, 100, 100. So now you're not worth 100,000, you're worth 500,000 if you want to do a bank statement loan. So you're going to give you 80% after 3 months or 6 months. Some banks are 6, some are 3. After 3 months, they're going to lend you 85% of that 100 grand. So that means they're going to lend you $80,000. If you make 10,000 a year, they're going to say, after 3 months, they're going to say, you make 120,000. So what they're going to do is lend you 80% of that. And they're going to say, 80,000 lend to here, go to the other bank. Got bank statements there also. Not based on your credit, but it is always good to have your credit together because you get more. So now you got 80,000 times 5 banks, right? 8 times 5 is what, 4? That's 400,000. Well, how much is that? Is that 400,000? So 400,000, and you're not worth 100,000, you're worth 400,000. And now you got $400,000 in the bank. That's a secured card. So they're going to leverage that 5 times. This is how you build wealth. Build wealth. So we can go in, we can partner with you. We can get you the money and say, okay, we like your business. Let's go in and partner, right? And we can gather many companies, many people together that says, I don't know what I want to do. Well, we have something for you. You want to invest in this? That's what Grant Cardone's doing. So to answer your question, we can go in 1, 2, 3 ways, or we can help you leverage, however you want to do it. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry, a little wordy.
No, absolutely. I appreciate you going around the world. It was great.
I was at a home a banker, and they had me teaching, and so I've become like a teacher mentality. So
Derrick, can you tell us what's the benefits of taking your company public?
Wow. A publicly traded company is the highest form of valuation of any company, right? So if you have a sole proprietorship, you could probably sell that for whatever the revenue you're making, whatever taxes, and they'll probably times that by 2, whatever deal you can make. If you have a corporation, then your corporation is going to be, of course, whenever you get a business, it should always be built as though you're going to sell it, right? Not just so that you can be working forever. We're talking non-performance income. So you're building it, you buy it, you sell it. You notice these rich people are saying, oh, we just sold such and such for such and such $1 billion. Then they go out and they go do something else. They build something else up. They buy it, sell it, right? So as a corporation, it's going to have the valuation. That valuation is going to be based on if somebody wants to buy it, it has the credit in it. It has the age in it. It has the proper structures, turnkey, plus the revenue it's making and all that. So now you're going to sell that court for about, 3 times for what the revenue is.
Gotcha.
But a publicly traded company is going to be 9 times. It's unlimited because people around the world are going to give their money to help you grow. So if you have 5 restaurants, then you're going to go in and say, I'm pre-IPO, I'm going to go public. So that's what they call that's when you go in and start soliciting, funds from investors so that you can grow and get to where you need to where it looks attractive and you can write your opinion letter to the SEC and go public. So now once you when you go public, everybody around the world, brokers are going to put your name out there in this brokerage and they're doing press releases. So everybody's going to know all about you and they're going to come to see, like the new restaurant. I want to go see what that's all about. So everybody comes in and they find out what it's all about, and then your stock skyrockets. IPO, when you go public, your stock skyrockets. And the people that put the money for you to get there take theirs out. So they win right away. And now yours levels out, but you're a publicly traded company. So imagine people around the world just saying, I want to put 100 grand in it. I want to put 50,000 in it. I want to put, $1 million in it, all around the world.
Okay.
That's why the stock market is so huge.
Gotcha.
So now you're going to go in and say, okay, you remember you don't own a company and you don't own the money, but what you do is you have a certain amount of money under management. You're managing that money. Yeah. So you can go in and say, I'm going to go in the airplane business. I'm going to go in. It just helps you have a high valuation so that you can go in and branch off and do bigger, greater things. If you want to have restaurants all around the world, like McDonald's, maybe you want to have trucking or maybe you want to open up a UPS and hire planes to fly people's, packages around the world. DHL, who knows? They're not the only ones that can have that. Maybe you want to have a car dealership in 10 different states.
True.
How you guys doing? I'm thankful and grateful to got this call from my partner Josh that got me on this Zoom. It was a lot of great information. My question is, like building a business, as far as a business, if I had a say LLC and I had it, I haven't used it in probably 5 years, and I wanted to kind of use that name. Will I still use that name?
If you have an LLC, again, I don't know when you came in on the on the chat, but an LLC is limited liability corporation. So a lot of times when you want to get money, you should bring in revenue, but you also want to have the ability to get money, funds. Always have the ability to get money. So if you have a corporation, you should be able to get bank statement loans. You should be able to get a merchant account loan, right? You should be able to get a installment line, and you use it as you go. You should be able to get credit cards, right? You should be able to leverage the money, right? You should be able to even go in and get some people are going in and getting these small cards, like these Apple cards and these Home Depot cards, and you can even turn that into money,
Right.
Like for instance, like you take a Home Depot card, a corporation gonna give you, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, $100,000 a card, depending on what you're doing. And if it's a $50,000 card, you go in and you take that card and walk in Home Depot and get a gift card, Home Depot gift card. Now you can use that as money.
Gotcha.
You see, or you can go in and let's say you're going to get like a on PayNet. You build your PayNet up and you go get a construction, or not a construction, but a what they call a PayNet, like you get a equipment loan. So if you get an equipment loan, you can turn that into money. You know, there's a lot of banks that go in and give you equipment loan, but they give you the money. Like I own a car dealership. We used to go and we used to do car loans, and then we turn around and the person says, "Well, I want the car," and then we go in and we give the money. The bank give us the money. We go in and give that person the money.
Right.
Right. So I don't do too much of them anymore, but I mean, there's possibilities all over the place. So you should have access to capital in all different areas. That's the blessing of having a C Corp. You know, LLC is limited. So what is it that you actually do with the LLC?
The LLC was it was a clothing. I had a clothing store. So I just wanted to use the name. I kind of came in when you was talking about as far as not using the LLC and making the C Corp. That's why I always wanted to take the name, just using that name and making that a C Corp, just the name itself, not just I didn't know if I could still use the name. Do I use it as LLC? That's not bad. Just to understand.
Yeah, well, the best way is the proper structure, because maybe your clothes might hit it big, like Damon Dash and Jay-Z, or whatever that company they had.
Right.
You never know. I mean, you could blow up out of nowhere. I've seen it happen too many times. And so maybe you want to have your clothes all over, in Spain, Europe, Spain. There's some stuff that you sell here that doesn't catch on, but you take it over France or Germany, and it blows up. They love it.
Yeah, so, that's the I even catch it. That's the goal I want in mind. I see a lot of my partners that locally. Well, man, I'm out of Ohio, Dayton to be exact, and they're starting clothes line. Just off the basic market, like local. I always think of international when I'm doing something. So, I like to go international with it. That's the goal.
Well, the other part of that is that whenever you do something like that, you want to be the manufacturer.
Okay.
Right. See, the problem is we're buying sneakers from somebody that paid $3 to make a pair of Nikes, and then they're charging us $250 for them.
Right about that.
So what we don't do is we don't manufacture anything. If we go to the store, we don't grow any lemons. We don't grow any. I have 47 acres of avocados up here in the mountains in Temecula, right? So I let them. I go to avocados. They pick the avocados. They sell them in the local stores, and it gives me a nice But we don't grow lemons. We don't grow avocados. We don't. If we want to buy, if they stop selling us anything, we'll starve. Because we don't grow food, we don't grow anything. If you want to grow food, then marijuana is not the only thing we can grow.
Yeah, no, you're right about that.
You know what I mean? I'm just being real. So you can manufacture it, have your own manufacturing and have yourself, some sewers in there sewing it up.
Tostada.
That's how you really make the big money, because it costs you a couple of dollars to sew up 10,000 shirts, and so your price point is high. Your returns are return on investment is going to be higher, much higher, and then somebody's going to want to buy it because it's a manufacturing company. They buy manufacturing anything. But your question is yes, they can. You can use that name. What is the name of the company?
It was Runway Marketing Clothing.
Okay, so marketing. You might not want to use that you want to use. Remember, I was talking about the SIC code. Okay, so you want to have the proper SIC code. So when you're talking about real estate, or like you got to use a hard money lender, or when you're talking about or investors, when you're talking about like manufacturing clothes and stuff, you might want to tell them that you're doing ITT or something like that. Then you get the money, then you do what you want with it. It's an excuse.
Okay.
So can you use the name? You can use the name, but I wouldn't use that name, and I would make that my holding court. Every company should have a holding court to protect yourself. Once you start making some good big money, somebody's going to come after some of that money.
Right.
So you need to protect yourself, make revenue, and have something that's worth something. So get your C corp, and then have your holding corp, and say everything the C corp owns, and the C corp has no specific name. Okay. Only on your EIN number do you give the specific name.
Okay.
Right.
So basically, just something I got understanding. The C corp will have a different name. Basically, my EIN number will have a different name than my C corp. Is that correct?
The C corp is going to indicate the industry. You're going to have the same name, but when they ask you what industry in, you're not going to say on the C corp, I am ABC Real Estate. You're not going to say that. You're going to say ABC Enterprises. If you notice, big companies don't have specific names. Like, what is Walmart?
Right about that.
Doesn't mean anything.
Right.
What does what does the coffee place mean? Starbucks. That doesn't mean coffee. Doesn't mean coffee.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Brookshire Hathaway. That doesn't mean any real estate. See, so you don't want to be specific names so they don't lock you in. But when you get your EIN number, right, you're gonna specify what industry you're in on the EIN. That's just for taxes.
Gotcha.
Bank ain't tripping on that.
Right.
So you get your C corp, you get your holding corp, and then you put your DBAs underneath it. That has your specific name.
Okay.
But the DBA is still going to be under the EIN number of the corp, because the corp is the mama. Just like the United States of America is the mama. And the states are underneath it, and cities and people.
Gotcha. Branch out. I got
you. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Diane.
Diane already asked the question.
Okay.
Anybody?
Miss Griffin, you have a question?
Yeah, you just mentioned something about DBAs. Is it possible to have multiple DBAs under one entity, one EIN?
Most definitely. That's how it's done. So you're either going to have your corporation, which is your mama, right? What came first, the chicken or the egg? The chicken, the woman. The no woman, there's no babies, no life. So with a corporation is going to be the mama. It gives birth to all the chickadees. Okay, so like Starbucks is not the corporation. Starbucks are the little ones you walk into are DBAs, and you can have many as you want. You can even make your own name DBAs.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. What kind of business are you doing?
I have a medical facility, so a medical clinic, and I run a series of different real estate investments and trading.
Very nice, very nice. I told you guys, it's not a good old boys club anymore. You better catch up. So that's spectacular. So do you have any credit in the corporation? What type of corporation is it, if it's a corp?
So the medical facility is a LLC. And I did just add 2 trade lines onto that. Really just trying to establish business credit by itself without me tied to it.
Okay, so what did you get, like some Eurolines or some
Quill.
some merchant accounts, or did you get some what bureau did you add those to?
So I purchased these trade lines so that they would report to Equifax. Wait, was it Equifax? No, it's Experian.
Okay, so right now, this is what I do for a living. So right now, Equifax is purchasing LexisNexis, and they're attempting to use SageStream as their reporting vessel. So Equifax right now is actually not reporting.
Oh, that's why I keep seeing that.
So when you buy, you got to be careful when you purchase trade lines from people, because they're just throwing them on there, and if they're not being paid down every month, then it's kind of like worthless.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I started to notice. So I misspoke. It was on Experian,
Okay.
but the credit utilization is 44%.
Well, that doesn't matter with the corporation. That matters with over 30%. That matters with the personal credit.
Gotcha.
So with the corporate credit, you can be 100%. Long as you pay the bill, they don't care. And if you pay it on time, they'll give you more credit.
Okay.
But you need 2 trade lines is not sufficient. You need at least 3 to 8 trade lines to have an 80 paydex. So do you know your paydex at this time?
I don't.
Okay, so you need to know what your paydex score is, but I can pretty much tell you, because that's what I do, that you have 2 trade lines, you don't have an 80 yet, because you need 3 to 8 trade lines to acquire an 80 paydex.
Gotcha.
So you want to build do you have anything on Dun & Bradstreet?
Yep.
So on Dun & Bradstreet, what do you have, if I can ask?
Oh, this same thing is there.
Or like a Quill. There's probably
like those 30-day nets,
Yeah.
merchant accounts.
Okay.
Okay, yes. So those are good. So you want to build those up organically. Dun & Bradstreet, you want to build those organically. But
Okay.
the other ones you can actually purchase. It takes about 3 months to build that organically on Dun & Brad. You do not want to build credit too quick, corporate credit, or they will red flag you.
Gotcha.
Because, you see, so strategically, you start building your your other trade lines. Whatever you have on Equifax, you want to have on Experian and small business finance. That's like having a personal credit score and you having like $100,000 on Experian for a car, and then that other car is 102,000. It don't match.
Yeah.
It's iffy. So you want to make the same ones. Small Business Financial Exchange is who banks check. So you're never going to be able to go in and check Small Business Financial Exchange yourself, because if you look them up online, banks, they tell you we deal with banks. But if you're dealing with somebody who is actually uploading the information directly, then they have access to the back door to send you a report to show you. But when you're putting them on and people are putting them on for you, or like you're doing Equifax, Experian, Small Business Financial Exchange, or PayNet, then you can check those. But if they're not being paid down, it's very suspicious.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you just talk really quickly about eOscar system and Metro 2?
Okay, so you were talking about reporting. So I own two car dealerships and a jewelry store. So at this point, I used to report directly. The biggest thing, man, in the world, I mean, it was money pouring in out of the sky. I hit $1 million in 2 months. I was like, this is great. So now, So now what's happening is when you want to report trade lines, what they call primaries, you have to go through the Metro 2 system, and you have to, have 100, 300, or 500 people you're reporting per month, every month. There's a way to do that, but what happens with these people, why primaries only last 6 months and then they go away, is, and then you can lose your money because you buy the primaries because they go away and you're on the end without a seat. So what happens is they get greedy and they start reporting, and the people's credit are bad. They're bad for a reason a lot of times. Sometimes things just happen, but a lot of times people get a hold of this stuff that we do and they say, I want to get me some money. So they get the credit together and then they default. When they default, a lot of people default. They say, what do these people defaulting have in common? That one trade line is on all of them.
Oh,
so then they come to you and they say, you are the person putting them on. So we're going to shut you down. You can't report anymore. So that's why primaries never last. But you need the Metro 2 system in order to talk from your computer to their computer. That's Metro 2. So then you need to take a little test, a little test.
What about eOscar?
eOscar is a third party. Just look them up and just read on them. eOscar. They're a third party reporting agency. That's who holds a lot of your files.
Awesome. All right, perfect. Anybody else?
Yeah, another quick question. What are your thoughts on wrapping your company in a trust?
Okay, so you're talking about a corporate veil now.
Correct.
That's good. So most people think about making money, but they never think about protection. So when you start making good money, somebody's coming after you, and you need to have the proper structure, because one of the people going to come after you is going to be the IRS. So if they come in and audit, you best to have your stuff together, or they're going to start penalizing you and then start trying to put you in a stranglehold, right? There's a whole gamut of things they can play games with. Right. For instance, like you'll go in and you'll get the you'll open a bank account. Like you have a bank account for your corporation, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so when you went in and opened that bank account, you just went in and opened it, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so a corporation is a person. It is a legal person, an entity. So my name is Derrick Whitehead. You can get to know me. If you know me, you'll say, okay, I opened a bank account in your name, Derrick. I'm going to say, really? Who gave you permission to do that? I said, well, I just went and opened it. Well, that's what they're going to ask you when they come talking to you. They're going to say, would you have a company bank account? They know you do already. Yes, you do. Some guy with glasses and the cheap suit. And he's going to say, when did you open it? They know when you opened it. They just asking, well, I put it such and such. Okay, who authorized that? So did you write in your book of minutes? Don't answer this because, but you should write in your book of minutes that in the best interest of the corporation we are gathered today to talk about, at least 3 people should be on your corporation, or you look like a poor corp. Doing everything. Imagine what a bank looks at it. Like, whoa, she's doing everything, right? So you should have at least 3 people, even if it's 2 people, don't even matter. They should be on there. So we get together and you do your book of minutes and you say, we are here today, name of the corp ID number, today's time, today's date, to talk about, have a vote on the best interest of opening a bank account for the business. And everybody who says aye, all in favor, says it's in the best interest. So as president, we will open a corporation, a bank account, take that, have it notarized, right? And then put that in your book of minutes. So when he comes and asks you, oh yes, we voted on it. That's who authorized it. And here it is. Because if you don't have that, that's like doing things that they're going to call it like extorting money and all that stupid stuff. So if you haven't done that, I don't want you to answer. And you can get my number from them or whatever if you have more questions about structure, because we help companies have the proper structure. You want to do that and have it notarized, put it in your book of minutes so you don't get in trouble there. So you go out and get corporate credit cards. Before you get credit cards from anybody or trade lines, you have to corporate credit cards or apply for credit or car, anything. You have to have minutes. We think it's in the best of interest to purchase a car for the corporation. It's a person. And then have it notarized, put it in your book of minutes. Now we're going to go for credit cards. We think it's the best interest to order this American Express. Notarized, put it in your book of minutes. So if you're not doing that, then go back and write it up, and not have it notarized and just backdate it when you got it and put it in the book of minutes. That'll suffice.
Yeah.
Okay, now what your question was, what was your question?
It was based around the corporate veil. So your thoughts on wrapping your corporation in a trust.
So your corporate veil, I was talking about protection. That's how I got on that.
Asset protection.
So your corporate veil should be as tight as any of Fortune 500. So make it short. Your C corp, right? Because that's the mama of corps, to take you skyrocket, have access to money and everything. Then you make your LLC your holding corp, and then your and that holds all the assets. So you write a letter to the holding corp and say you own everything we have. And now you have it notarized. You put it in your book of minutes. Now this corp and the DBAs, you can do whatever you want with them, but you get no money. And then you take that holding corp and the people who are on the holding corp, the shareholders, they're in a trust outside the jurisdiction of the United States, Mexico, and you're doing online, right? So now that's what you call a solid corporate veil. So nobody's ever getting to you because it's out of the jurisdiction of the United States. Does that make sense?
It sure does. I thought just cross state lines. So for example, I'm here in Illinois, but having everything in Wyoming would have created that same type of security.
Well, you're doing business there, but you're a foreigner, so you're doing either a foreign filing in Wyoming, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so your foreign filing is going to, but now you need a holding corp so that it can hold all your assets. So it doesn't matter what state it is. But if you're making large amounts of money, you're going to get those guys in those, $10,000 suits, in those Range Rovers, lawyers, and those Bentleys coming. And they're going to break that. Those little regular guys, run over shoe guys, corporate attorneys, they can't play with me. Well, but they can't play with you because you'll have your holding corp. And very rarely are you going to need that trust unless you're just making outrageous money.
Right. And that was the reason why I asked that question, because I have a holding company, but I was speaking with someone earlier today and they mentioned having a trust, having certain things wrapped around in a trust. And it's not the first time that I had heard that, but I haven't moved on it just because. So just wanted to get your.
You can put us on and next to Hemp 500 or whoever you want, right? But we're talking about getting you some money. We're not talking about you getting no credit card so you can take a flight, or no tour. We're talking about just going right to the bank and say, give me some money. Or we're going to help you structure whatever you already have, or help you go to the next level. So if you want to set that up, we went out to Texas. We put 200 people in a seat. We closed 100 people, and it was $5,000 a seat. And we closed in 2 days seminar. We did 250. So we would gladly share some of that money with you.